And what I've said for years is I want to touch 1% of America. And that number is approximately 3.3 million people. Now, this all came out of a live webinar I was in, and I hypothesized, I said, hey, wouldn't it be incredible if we influenced so many people that we turned the top 1% into the top 2%? That was the idea. Could we double the top 1%? And that's how I came up with this vision. How could we go touch 3.3 million people and transform their life? So here's where this conversation is going to go. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but specifically, we're going to talk about manifestation. What does it mean to have a vision, have a goal, have a dream, and then manifest that? So here's the big question. How do everyday people like us who didn't grow up wealthy and were not taught how to be wealthy in school, how are we supposed to learn to think, invest, and grow wealth like the top 1% without compromising our ethics and our values? My name is Jeremy Whaley. That was my big question. This podcast will give you the answers. You're listening to Think Rich Radio. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Think Rich Radio. I'm your host, Jeremy Whaley, with my co-host, Nelson Bran, coming to you from Georgetown, Texas. I'm, of course, in Nashville, Tennessee. How are you doing today, Nelson?
Unbelievable, brother. Super stoked about today's conversation and looking forward to something good, something interesting, and something worthwhile.
I think it's going to be a great conversation. I'm excited to have this one with you. And just so our viewers know, I decided to try something a little different. Got the backlights off, so we got a little night vibe going here because we're recording this at night. So you guys can let us know in the comments what you think of my purple background. Nelson, I shared a vision with you. I've had it for over 10 years. It is you can call it a dream of mine, maybe not so much a dream as much as a benchmark. And this has been a benchmark that I've had for a long time. And what I've said for years is I want to touch 1% of America. And that number is approximately 3.3 million people. Now, this all came out of a live webinar I was in, and I hypothesized, I said, hey, wouldn't it be incredible if we influenced so many people that we turned the top 1% into the top 2%? That was the idea. Could we double the top 1%? And that's how I came up with this vision. How could we go touch 3.3 million people and transform their life? So here's where this conversation is going to go. We're going to talk a little bit about that, but specifically, we're going to talk about manifestation. What does it mean to have a vision, have a goal, have a dream, and then manifest that? This is something I've been holding for 10 years. Hasn't come true yet, but you know what? I'm ready. I'm really ready to go after that goal. So we're going to put it out there publicly with you, with all of our listening audience, and let's have that conversation. What do you say?
I say let's do it. To me, it sounds very, very easy. It doesn't sound difficult in the least. You and I are going to do the work. We're going to put in the effort. We're going to put out these podcasts every single day. And we're going to make them as interesting as possible so that people, whether they're watching us or listening to us, will always get a little something new every time they see us.
That's right. And we also try to keep improving them so it's a better product. So you guys can give us your feedback on what you like and what you think. We're going to be doing some upgrades here soon, and we'll get their feedback on that. But let's talk about the idea of setting a goal, setting a dream, and saying that's something that has not happened. Maybe based on current circumstances, it might seem absurd. How does one manifest something that in this present moment seems absurd, but that is their dream, it's their desire, it's their focus? I'm teeing that up for you to start, and then I'll add my 2 cents.
Before I go into manifestation, I think our timing for what we're doing and what you're after is uncanny. We're in a job market moment where it's not a very strong job market right now, my friend. People have to start learning new skills in order to move ahead. And they have to start reimagining what they're going to be like in tomorrow's marketplace. Because yesterday's marketplace, as you and I have said many times over, those types of regimens and recipes no longer work in this new paradigm. They just don't. So by definition, we need to be learning new ideas, new skill sets. And you and I are here more on a philosophical level. We're here to give people the why. Why should you bother changing? Why should you bother growing? Why should you bother developing yourself at a personal level every single day? Hence the title of the show, right?
That's it.
So, so as far as the timing is concerned, it's not audacious to say we'd like to go and have a 3.1 million person audience, right? Again, it's the perfect timing for such a thing. And friends, if you're joining us now, know that at some point we're going to give you more specific skill sets as we move along. But for now, it's broad, and for now, we're giving you the whys. Now, insofar as manifestation, how does someone bring? Let's assume it's a ridiculous idea now, right? How does someone begin to manifest the idea? You know me, I'm a writer. So I write it all down, I draw it out, I visualize it, I talk about it. I'll tell people, as many human beings as I can tell, what it is I'm after. Because at some point, whether it's somebody who says, how interesting that you would say that, because you know what, I happen to do this, or here's how I can help. Or the universe itself listens and puts me in a particular circumstance where that lofty dream is suddenly right before me. It's ready to begin. And I think I've told you dozens of times where, even right now, my friend, I was a builder, general contractor into real estate and doing claims adjusting. And I was doing that for a while, especially the general construction portion of it. I've done it in multiple states. I've been successful at that. But if you look at my old journals several years ago, what did they say? Someday I'll do a podcast. What else did they say? Someday I'll be a part of a university. Now, I didn't anticipate that it would be a crypto university, the academy that we have, but I saw those things a long time ago and I wrote them down, and I've always been coming into this direction right now. Thoughts?
It is interesting when you put something out there, you don't know how you're going to get there. But if you hold the vision, if you hold the concept, and you just keep it out there and you say, I'm going to go there, I'm going that direction, I'm going that direction, eventually you get there. It was probably the early 2010s when I first muttered, is that a word? Uttered the phrase, I want to touch 1% of America. What's interesting, and we did not plan this before we started, we literally didn't even talk about what we're going to talk about. So, our audience, this is not pre planned. We're just going here. You don't know this, and I hadn't thought about it until you were just speaking. I started this podcast in 2019 with the intention of I want to touch 1% of America. And it disappeared because here's what's interesting. When you start something big, call it Satan, call it evil, call it the opposition, whatever you want to call it, things are going to try to stop you. And this podcast has had more resistance than almost anything I've done in my life. In 2019, when I launched it, it led to, single-handedly, it triggered what led to the breakup of my business partnership, triggered all sorts of things. 2020, 2021, as we were trying to keep things going, there was a lot of heavy energy that was around it. And eventually I just stopped doing the podcast. And what's interesting is you've shown up, we've relaunched this thing, and it's got a totally different energy now. But I'm just reminded every time I've started something big, every time with no exception, the day before, the week before, the week of, something shows up that tries to sabotage it in a massive way. And I can tell you story after story after story. And when I say massive, when I started our first $1 million business back in 2009, the day before we went live, my father was almost killed in a car accident, head-on car accident. My whole world turned upside down. We ended up going ahead and launching the next day because we needed to. And I waited a couple of days before I went to, he was about 3 hours away before I went to go see him. And I can just tell you story after story of how the friction shows up when you're doing the right thing. So I think there's two thoughts there that I want to pick up on. One is setting the intention, and I have a lot I want to add to that. And then one is that friction that shows up. So I kind of told you my own story. I'm curious what you've seen in your life when you're at the precipice of doing something big. Maybe you're launching, maybe you haven't gotten over the top yet, but what kind of frictions have you seen? I think our audience would really like to hear this.
I'll tell you, Jeremy, I'm a bit of a foolish optimist. So What someone might interpret as friction, I interpret as a test of wills. So the way that I see myself is someone who's built to endure. If you were to say to me, "Hey Nelson, we need to do 36 hours straight of work," and I don't really care what it is, putting together furniture for a house, cleaning a house, doing something, writing a paper, writing a book. If you say to me, "You know what, we've got a deadline, we've got to do it overnight," I'll do it. And I won't complain a nickel. I won't sleep, I won't eat, I'll get it done. I believe that whatever comes up, it's a part of the journey. It's a part of the journey. And it's not that I'm not conscious that inconveniences will not arise. It's not that I don't believe. Remember, we imagine life. Sometimes we imagine a particular goal. We don't know how we're going to get there. We don't need to know how we're going to get there. All we can see is the goal at the end of the day. But the realities of life is that en route to that goal, there's going to be steep slopes. There's going to be ditches with quicksand. There's going to be precipices. There's going to be jagged rocks all over the place. There's going to be alligator across a lake that we have to get across. I interpret that as just a necessary part of the journey. Because to me, the journey doesn't have to be straight or convenient or nice or pretty or any of that. All I know is that is mine, and I'm going to go get it. And with that said, that's why this particular podcast from now on will blow up, because I won't let it do otherwise.
I think I did need a co-host for a lot of reasons, but I have a similar philosophy. And I mean, I adopted it years ago. When I'm starting something new, if something doesn't show up to derail it, I actually get concerned. At this point, I started to expect it. It's like, well, it's going to show up. And when it shows up, I don't let it distract me the way that I used to. Sometimes those blowups can be bigger than you ever expect. Usually they are. Usually they come in a way that will totally take you out of the game if you let it. But you have to be committed to it and you have to follow through. And I think this is a really valuable conversation for our audience to hear, because they need to realize that, you know, if you guys are starting something, and maybe it's a passion, maybe it's just something you're curious, you step on your toes in the water and you tip your toes in just a little bit, and then you feel that first friction. Most people quit. That's when they stop. They stop at the first sign of friction. You can't do that. I mean, you just can't stop at the first sign of friction. You have to push through, and you have to push through, and you have to push through. And I'm thinking of one client that I've worked with in particular. And he's really struggled with trying to get online business going, and he's never really succeeded with it. He signed up for an Amazon program, then he signed up for another one and another one. And next thing you know, he signed up for one with me. And while we were working, he went and signed up with somebody else. And he eventually said, you know what, I think I'm going to put my energy over here. So I was like, great. I gave him my blessings. He went, and just a couple weeks ago, he told me, you know what, after all this stuff, it's just a repeat of everything. And he's concluded his entire career should just be that of having a job. There's just one problem. He just got laid off. So the world, the universe has given him the gift of person. I don't want to say his name, but your job is you're supposed to go be an entrepreneur. He's supposed to be. He wants to be. But the frictions keep showing up, and he rechanges direction and quits. He gives up. And that is the pattern that I see so many people running over and over. So I think the message here, at least from where I sit, is when you start something new, if it's worthwhile, you better expect friction. What do you say?
I say yes, but I'm gonna touch on two things. One, getting a job and or being an entrepreneur. Actually, let me backtrack. Let me finish the last statement, which when I had said to you that I'm a foolish optimist, Jeremy, I'm the type who expects things to go fantastic, because 9 out of 10 times they do. And the one time they don't, I literally look at the universe and say, what's up? It's me, guys. I'm so shocked that it didn't go phenomenal, because I'm so used to that in everything I do. But I bring a level of optimism that is, I know it's not a good word, it's retarded, just how optimistic I am. And I will look for something good in the worst of conditions, in the most terrible of conditions. With that said, regarding the job market, and I touched on that earlier, and or being an entrepreneur. Jeremy, you and I have talked about this so many times. I just spoke to a friend today about the lack of jobs out there. A friend of mine who said to me, Nelson, I'm looking for a job and I cannot seem to find it. And he happens to be a carpenter. And he's out here in Texas. And he just came back from Houston and he did a small project out there. Before that, he was out of state doing another project, and now he's back in state here locally looking for work. And he's absolutely fixated on, I need a job. I don't have a choice. He's got young children. He's got a wife. So he really needs a job. He doesn't have a choice. The thing is this, though, Jeremy, there's not a lot of jobs out there. If we don't start to look at the world and say, listen, I need to be the captain of my own boat. I can't run and occupy 40 hours a week working for somebody else, making this much money and having a third of it removed in taxes automatically, and then going out there in the world and having another chunk removed from me because of inflation, and then attempting to save in the bank and having another chunk removed from me from the inability of the money being able to work for us and make a return, any kind of respectful return, I should say. So we have no choice, all of us, to become an entrepreneur today. We have zero choice. And that's what this program's all about.
I believe that too. I mean, I've often said entrepreneurship is a spiritual calling. I mean, number one, I think every human being, especially in an economy and a culture like the United States, I think you have a spiritual duty to earn as much money as you can possibly earn so that you can go out and do as much good as you can possibly do. And I genuinely believe that. I also believe that if you have the capacity to earn above and beyond, if I can go provide for me and my family, that's great. If I can provide for myself and my family and employ 2 other families, that's better. And if I can employ 20 families, that's even better. And if in the process we can, provide housing for some families, or we can do some other things that serve the community and build the economy, what higher calling is there for society? It's a lot better to give people a dignified place or dignified outlet to live their life than to just give handouts. And it takes entrepreneurship to do that. Capitalism, it's a double-edged sword, just like anything else. With great freedom comes great responsibility. I want to keep capitalism. And because I see capitalism as the economic engine that allows us to do these things that we want to do. But we got to fight for it sometimes. I know that's kind of a little tangent there, but that's just to say that, yes, everybody on some level should experience what it means to be an entrepreneur.
Once upon a time, I used to wait tables. I waited tables at a place called Polly's Pies. There was burgers and French fries and chicken pot pie and grilled chicken and pies of all kinds.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it was really good, actually. We had a barbecue bacon burger on a wheat bun with Swiss, American, or cheese, bacon, just fantastic burgers. Anyways, I remember at the time thereafter, I thought everyone should wait tables because I would see people being so rude to food service. They were impatient, and I thought, man, nobody knows the job of a food server. And I think everyone should have that experience. Then I went into construction and thought the same thing, that everyone should have some kind of experience in construction because it's not always a respected industry to be in, right? And so with that said, now I look and I say to myself, everyone should be a risk taker and start some kind of company. Now, I don't know if that means selling magazines online in the evenings, or that means getting contract work online on particular sites for remodeling or construction, or whether that means being a coder. I'm not sure, whatever it means for the individual. But everyone should take a chance and get some kind of side hustle where they can learn more about themselves, express themselves, and ultimately get to the point where they have employees. Because in the same way that I once thought everyone should be a waiter at some point to learn what that's like, so that you're more respectful of that industry. Everyone should be in construction for the same reason. And now I'm thinking everyone should take a chance and ultimately have a company and have employees, because having employees is not an easy task. Managing human beings has to be probably one of the hardest things to do. And so I think everyone should take a chance, get a side hustle, grow it into an opportunity where you hire people, and be forced to learn that. It makes us better.
It's like herding cats.
I don't know about that. Yeah.
I totally agree with that. The journey of who you have to become to be successful as an entrepreneur, even if it's the smallest business, you don't have to be an Elon Musk running, International Space Station missions to learn the skills of entrepreneurship. But it truly is a gift, I believe. Let's come back to manifestation. It starts with an idea. It starts with a conception of an idea. Going back to a bumper sticker statement, if you can conceive it and you can believe it, you can achieve it. That's a good bumper sticker right there. You should have Oscar make some of those for us. If you can conceive it, if you can believe it, you can achieve it. For better or worse, one of my gifts has been the conception. I come up with ideas. I come up with money-making concepts more in a day than I could ever do in a lifetime. Some people can't conceive it. That's my blessing and it's my curse. My curse is the other side of it. You have to put actions behind it in order to make it real. And sometimes you get so many ideas, we can't do them all. Like you will often say to me, Jeremy, stay focused. Right? But it starts there. If somebody says, how do you manifest? How do you bring something that doesn't exist into the physical world and make it exist? To me, I learned it starts with conception. And I conceive in my mind, but then I write down on paper. We talked about that in a journal episode a couple episodes ago. We talked about writing stuff down. And then, you filter through it. And for me, I decide which ones are actually worth going towards. I have many ideas that are written down that I probably will never go after. And it's been a great consternation for people in my environment who are like, why do you have so many ideas? I'm like, I can't help it. But, I write down a lot of them, and many of them will sit there and germinate for months or years. Think Rich Radio was germinating for about 3 years. I haven't done anything with it. And I was just waiting for the right time. I knew it would come back. I never let the domain go. I always knew that we would come back to this. I just didn't know what it was going to look like yet. And here we are. And so I think that, I want to encourage our listeners, you start with an idea. You start with a conception and you let it marinate. And some ideas are like grass. They pop up very, very fast, but they die quickly. Some ideas are like an oak tree. You have to plant the seed and it might take decades before anything shows that is anything resembling what you imagined. But it doesn't mean that the process isn't the same. You plant the seeds. And in my opinion, we're always planting, because you never know which seed's going to sprout and when it's going to happen. I could say more, but why don't you start with that?
When you said to me, Nelson, I want to start the podcast back up, Think Rich Radio, the first thing out of my mouth that I said was, let's do it. Do you want to start now or tomorrow? Why did I say that? Because that's the way I see life, Jeremy. I'm going to start right now. If your idea is a good one, let's do it now. How are we going to do it, Nelson? I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out as we go along. That's the reality of this place we're in. That's how we're supposed to do it. So it isn't just imagining an idea and penciling it down. It's taking action toward it. If somebody has an idea and it requires another person, once you've imagined it, once you've penciled it out, get on the phone and call them. Hey, Richard, it's been a long time. What are you doing? Hey, listen, I had this crazy thought, blah, 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 whatever that is. And so whether we do that or whether we need a tool in order to activate that dream. So we go get the tool as soon as we can. We need to look a certain way. Okay, well then let's get clothing necessary to play the part. But we need to start to play the part immediately. Are you familiar? And I don't know specificity on this, but there's a sort of video camera that will take a picture of a person, where a person thinks of a thought, and it goes from thought to written, from written to action, and how this glow about us, because we're like this orb. I think it's a camera maybe that shows our energy force, right? And as you see this thought manifest into something real, you could see it in the picture, how how the glow around the human being changes. Because something is becoming real. It's taking form in the physical world. And we're the ones who are doing that. That's one of the greatest gifts God could have ever given us. We have the capacity to create.
Is the term you're thinking of Carillion photography?
I believe it is. I don't remember. I apologize. I don't remember. I just remember seeing the pictures and kind of I got to the meat of it, which was this is how thoughts manifest in this place.
Yeah, I love that. And you're 100% true, 100% accurate in what you're saying. You know, we have an aura that is literally around our body. I don't know what the type of photography is that would look at it. The word that came to my mind was Carillion. Could be false. A photographer is going to listen to this and send us hate messages and hey, whatever. Just tell us what the answer is. But you know, Joe Dispenza talks about this. Tony Robbins talks about it in different areas, but they talk about the research the Heart Math Institute has done. I don't know if you've looked at that. The heart brain cohesion, when you do certain exercises to get your heart and your brain in coherence with each other. And they talk about the energy field that extends, you know, a good 15, 20 feet beyond the body. But when you get your heart and your brain in coherence, it's literally infinite how far your energy field can go. And that's kind of part of what you're talking about is once we get everything into coherence, once we get everything into alignment, the reason that my most successful endeavors have worked is because in those moments, we were in alignment, 100% alignment. And when things don't work, usually there's something that's out of alignment. And if you could take a picture of it, I don't know what the type of photography is. I'm 100% certain what we would see is we would see all those energy waves coming into alignment. And yeah, I love it. I don't know where I'm even going with that. Just affirming you.
It's the ripples when you throw a rock into a still lake. Yeah. And depending on the size of the rock, or depending on the weight, or even the weight of the rock, or the weight in the arm throwing the rock. Yep. The ripples that come from that little tiny rock or larger rock, how far do they go? That's you and me. That's us. That's all of us. We all have that capacity, right? It's something that isn't encouraged, it isn't taught, but that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the capacity to influence our desires and our thoughts and our wants out onto the world. And we do it by taking action in that direction as soon as we have it and really telling everyone about it. But the more action we take toward it, the more we prepare and plan for it, it just becomes real. We make it solid. We literally are molding it while we're busy putting our thoughts in motion.
Absolutely. One of the sayings I came up with years ago, vision before logistics. You got to have the idea and then you just start working. If you wait until you have all the logistics worked out, you'll never get there because there's too many moving parts to get everything sorted out. I like what you said. You said, how did you describe yourself? Just recklessly optimistic. What was the word you said?
Overtly optimistic, foolishly optimistic.
Foolishly optimistic. The way that I like to think about it is be the thing you want to be now. You know, so some people say fake it till you make it. I don't like that. I just say become that thing. If you want to become something, whatever that thing is, just decide right now, I'm going to start behaving that way. So you can call it foolishly optimistic. I just call it becoming that thing. Like you take on the persona of that. And the more you practice taking on the persona of that, the more you are that thing. But what happens is I think in our culture, people assume you have to have a certain resume before you can be that thing. And so they say, you know, somebody wants to be a musician. Well, eventually when I've done enough shows, then I'm a musician. Well, how do you know when you've achieved that? How do you know when you can cross that identity barrier and say, now I'm a musician? Or somebody wants to be a podcast host or an entrepreneur or a real estate investor or whatever. Well, what if we just shift it? What if we say, this is my vision. This is what I want to do. You know, pick one. I want to be a real estate mogul and own multifamily apartment buildings. Okay, so make that decision. That's your vision. In 5 years, I want to own 3 apartment buildings. Okay, fantastic. What does the person who owns 3 apartment buildings look like? What do they sound like? What is their behavior? Do that now. And if you become that thing now and you just start saying, to your point, hey, I am that. It is real. I am an apartment building owner. Even if you don't have it yet, You become that thing, and every day your energy literally transmutes into the thing that you said that you wanted. And to me, that is the secret of manifestation. To look into the future, conceive something, take on that identity, and bring that identity in this present moment. And if you feel that way, not waiting until we get there, one day you say, oh, well, one day I'm going to be a real estate mogul. No, I am a real estate mogul. I'm a real estate mogul in training. My portfolio might be thin right now, but I'm a real estate mogul. And if you take on that identity now, you're literally reaching into the future and pulling that energy into this present moment. Number one, life becomes a lot more enjoyable. But that to me is the secret of manifestation. Everything that I have found that I've been able to manifest in my life, I had to follow that process. I have to look into the future and literally say, who do I have to be to make that real? And then become that thing right now. And you can call it taking action. That's one way to look at it. To me, it's an identity thing. I think everything starts with identity. This is who I am now. What do you say?
I remember, even though Robert Kiyosaki doesn't say manifestation in his book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, he went ahead and described what an apartment building owner would be like. I was 30 years old, and I wrote down everything that he described that an apartment building owner would look like, feel like, mostly feel like, what they sound like, where they would go, what they would do. And I literally copied exactly everything he did. And before I knew it, I was owning apartment buildings. And it was such a bizarre condition. It started, in my case, by flipping small homes that were beat up. I'd fix them one at a time. And then little by little, I got enough money to put into an actual duplex, and then a triplex, and then a fourplex. And so I became those things. But for just an inkling, for just a small moment, I had doubt. And the doubt said this: but Nelson, you're not a realtor. But Nelson, you've never been an investor in real estate. But Nelson, you don't know enough to find the deals. But Nelson, you can't negotiate with people. That lasted about a whole minute before I squashed it beneath my foot and said, I've got everything I need. And I'm going to treat this little book like a Bible for just a little while. And I'm going to become it. So I had to see it, and I had to live it in order to manifest it. And it happened. And I was pretty young. And it's not that I didn't make mistakes, and it's not that trouble didn't come. It's simply that it's kind of easy, Jeremy, if you think about it. It's kind of easy. And therein is the contradiction, because we're the ones who make it hard. We think it's going to be hard, and it's not. We just have to do. As long as our doing parallels the big idea itself, we're good to go.
The only thing that stands between where we are and all of the dreams in our life are the actions we take and the stories we choose to believe. If we change the stories that we believe and we back it with action, there's no limits to the human being. There truly are no limits. And, that's the hardest thing for me, even still, to look at my life sometimes and say, why am I not getting the things I want? And I keep coming back to that little thing that I wrote in my journal years ago. Well, either you're believing stories that you shouldn't be believing, or you're not taking actions that you should be taking. And I think that is something that we can hold our hat on. I have a parting shot I want to give in a moment. Do you have anything you want to give right now?
No, brother. I love where this is going. Go ahead.
Joe Dispenza talks about how we get stuck because we live in the present moment by reflecting on the familiar past. And we keep going back to the history. We keep going back to what we've experienced. And in doing so, we're looking back, we're giving it energy, and we're literally revivifying, reliving that emotional, energetic experience in this present moment. But we can just as easy create a discipline of looking into the future and pre-vivifying, pre-living an experience, bringing it into this present moment. And you can, by doing that, literally manifest anything that you want. And so we have a choice. We define our future by what our thoughts are. Remember, the book's called Think and Grow Rich. We can think about the past, keep reliving it, and we keep bringing it into this moment. Or we imagine the future of our dreams we pre-live it, and we bring it into this moment. Which one sounds more exciting?
I love that. I'm going to add one last thing to that, Jeremy. We don't solve for what is best for us. We solve for what is familiar to us. A lot of times the reason that we are either failing at a job hunt, a particular job we're in, maybe we're getting fired, maybe it's not working, maybe it's marriages, maybe it's a girlfriends, whatever it is, we tend to continue to do the same thing, and then we're surprised when we don't get a new reaction. But again, we're solving for whatever it is that makes us feel good, whatever it is that makes us feel familiar. It's got to be familiar to us. And that goes back to what I was saying before, Jeremy, where unless we run a self-diagnostics, how can we possibly know what's good for us versus solving for what's familiar to us, right? And when I say familiar, I mean, growing up, mom and dad didn't know everything. They did their best. They did their very, very best, right? Growing up, maybe there were some financial circumstances or domestic circumstances or neighborhood circumstances that caused us to be a particular way, maybe a little defensive, maybe a little insecure about some things. Whatever it is, we literally want to open that up, pencil it out so that we can get rid of whatever doesn't serve us. And once we do, for the first time, we can start solving and making decisions for what's great for us, not for what's familiar to us.
I have to piggyback on that. I was ready to close this episode because we've been going for a little bit, but I think that Earth is about becoming that thing. More people spend their life frustrated about what they haven't become. And they don't realize that the whole purpose of this experience that we're living on planet Earth is to shed those identities and to become the thing. So here's my encouragement. Maybe this can be our parting shot. Those of you who are at home listening or in your car or wherever you are, whatever it is that you want, whatever story you're telling yourself, this is why I can't have it. That is the belief right there that's got to be shed. The sooner you shed that, and it can be a choice. I'm just going to let it go. I'm just going to let it go now. The sooner that we shed those stories, the sooner that the fire can come in and purify the gold, for lack of a better metaphor. But that's what we're doing. We're literally in this inferno called planet Earth to get rid of the impurities. And there's no limitations. I truly believe the movie The Matrix probably was a really interesting insight into what we probably could be if we could just get outside of our stinking thinking, as they like to say.
So true, brother. So true. Folks, I'd love to encourage you guys on the thread. If you could write down, this is the beginning of your manifestation. Whatever dream or goal you have, maybe it's as big as the sun, maybe it's something small. I want to lose 10 pounds. Whatever it is, write it down on the notes section, if you would, please, guys. It's the beginning of airing out what it is you want and letting the universe know what it is you want. It's the beginning of something real for you.
I love that. Delta Chain Labs is in its infancy, but it's no longer a conception. It has been born. And it's pretty exciting what you and Davey and Brandon are building. And I'm getting involved. I'm working on content that I'm about to put up there right now. Been working on it all day, in fact. Why don't you tell people about Delta Chain Labs?
So the initial thought on Delta Chain Labs was to transition folks from zero crypto knowledge to expert or to mastery. And that was going to go from something soft like what is an exchange, what is blockchain, what's a hot wallet, what's a cold wallet. And then we were going to go into neobanking and DeFi and layer twos and something a little more complex. But as we went along, we started noticing that there's a real business side to the idea as well. So we wanted to incorporate businesses into the idea too, into the fold. And in fact, we had a conversation, Jeremy, about these podcasts. How do we fold these into that equation as well? Because it's such a necessary part of the whole idea. So in other words, we started out with, we want to give skill sets to regular people so that they're no longer uncomfortable going into the cryptocurrency space. so that they're a little more comfortable with artificial intelligence. They know what it is, so that they can start to make decisions about digital assets, buying them, investing in them, and just basically make more knowledgeable, reasoned decisions. But as we've gone ahead, we're now incorporating instructors like yourself because we want to give as much value as possible. And certainly a lot of that is going to be cryptocurrency related. But as we move along, it's going to be business related, finance related, real estate related, entrepreneur related. It's going to have the entire gamut because our goal is to serve the people. Right now, we have a beta price of $150 per year. We have, I think, upward of 300 lessons/modules. We have nearly 40 quizzes. I mean, a person can study right now all the courses, and if they did it 40 hours a week, I don't think they'd finish in a year and a half. That's how much volume of product we have right now for the people. And so...
And more coming.
Oh my goodness, we're building every single day more and more and more. So folks, Jeremy's going to be on there, and he's got a grip of programs that he's bringing to the platform. So it's going to be a really proud place for us to host him. But you can go and see a little more of what Jeremy knows and what he does and his specialty on deltachainlabs.com. I'm eventually going to be on there as well at some point. I'm not sure for whether it's real estate or construction or entrepreneurialism.
You got to take action, Nelson. You got to take action.
I got to take action. But the point is that we're growing something phenomenal, and we're anticipating enormous things out of it, Jeremy.
I think it's going to be a much bigger impact than a lot of people might think. I mean, you know, originally, I think when Davey and Brandon started conceiving this, they weren't quite sure what it could be. And it's been pretty cool to watch them get super excited about it. For those of you who are wanting to learn more about the financial world, trademaestro.com. If you're wanting to learn how to navigate income, money, opportunities in the age of AI and decentralized finance, that's what you can learn over at trademaestro.com. So check us out over there. We've got some free courses and, of course, our premium courses and our membership as well. Thank you, Nelson, for this fantastic conversation. Thank you to everybody at home. Until next time, we wish you the best. Have a great day.